Today is Friday, July 28th. What to know about new criminal charges against former President Trump and when his trial will begin. And the heat continues as more than 2/3 of Americans are under weather-related alerts. Plus, for the second month in a row now, Bud Light has lost its spot as the top-selling beer in the U.S. We have an update about the health of one of the biggest names in college basketball and what toy company Mattel is working on next after the mega success of the Barbie movie. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, there are new criminal charges against former President Trump now. And once again, they're related to the classified documents found at his Florida home. This week, federal prosecutors announced the added charges, saying Trump told staffers to delete security camera footage to keep it away from investigators. And here's the thing. This allegedly happened the day after they issued a subpoena for it. It's not clear if the footage actually got deleted or not, but investigators say it's key to the case, since it captured Trump's personal valet moving boxes of documents in and out of a storage room. One time was even the day before a visit from the Justice Department. That valet and the Mar-a-Lago property manager are also facing new charges. The new indictment also charges former President Trump with illegally holding onto and showing off a classified document that detailed sensitive military secrets, even though he apparently returned it later. In response, a Trump spokesperson called this all just another attempt by the Biden administration to harass former President Trump and influence the 2024 presidential race. Trump is expected to plead not guilty to these charges, just as he already has to the others in this case. The trial for it all is set to begin in May of next year. Oh, and by the way, former President Trump is bracing for another possible indictment, but this time for a different reason: his role in the January 6th Capitol riot. Last week, he said he received a letter from the Justice Department letting him know he was a target in that investigation, and his lawyers met with the prosecutors just yesterday to talk about the case. But at this point, prosecutors are not saying anything publicly about that meeting or pending charges. So, to be continued. Well, there's a concerning new trend happening in the U.S. job market. The Labor Department says a growing number of children are now working in dangerous jobs. In the last 10 months, federal regulators say they found almost 4,500 kids working in violation of federal child labor laws. That's up 44% from a year before. This report came out the same day lawmakers grilled the Health and Human Services Secretary about unaccompanied minors specifically working dangerous jobs. They cited a New York Times investigation that found child migrant labor in American factories has, quote, exploded since 2021. It detailed the cases of children who came to the U.S. alone, then went to live with relatives or friends who sometimes pressured them to make money by getting jobs at meatpacking plants, food processors, and elsewhere. Now, the Health and Human Services Department says it is increasing services for children, and the Labor Department is stepping up fines for employers who try to take advantage, though officials say there's still plenty more work to do. It looks like stricter rules are coming for big banks. As Bloomberg explains, and to just keep it simple, U.S. regulators would force the banks lending out money to thicken their cushions, or in other words, keep more cash on hand to absorb any unexpected losses. The extra requirements will apply to all banks with at least $100 billion in assets, which essentially means some mid-sized banks will face some of the tougher rules that had been reserved for the largest banks, though the 8 largest banks will have to raise their capital the most by about 19%. Also, all banks with at least $100 billion in assets will have to replace their internal way of handling risk and lending with standardized requirements. This is all part of an overhaul that started after the 2008 financial crisis, but the issue has been back in the spotlight ever since Silicon Valley Bank and others failed earlier this year. CNBC says banks and their interest groups are expected to push back against some of these new rules, saying they'll only boost prices for customers. And already trade groups have questioned whether the new requirements are really necessary or worthwhile. Either way, they're now open to public comment through the end of November. If they survive that step, the changes would begin in 2025. Even though interest rates keep rising, the economy keeps on growing. New government data came out this week about the GDP, which is basically the total value of goods and services a country produces. And it shows the GDP went up 2.4% in the last few months as compared to the same time last year. And that's even faster growth than we saw the first few months of this year. And it's faster than what economists were expecting. Perhaps the most surprising thing from the report, it showed the most business investment since 2021. In other positive economic news, weekly jobless claims came out yesterday as well, showing fewer people becoming unemployed as compared to the week before. So with strong employment and strong consumer demand, many economists say this is evidence the Fed is getting the soft landing it's been hoping for. Though, of course, we'll have to wait and see to know for sure. More than 2/3 of Americans are now under heat alerts. The heat wave that's been in the South for weeks has now expanded into the Plains and Midwest. And today it moves into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, too. It could even feel like it's in the triple digits in New York City, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Washington, D.C., while the extreme heat continues for places like Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Dallas. Meteorologists say millions of people will likely still be dealing with this heat wave even into next month. We have much more news for you coming up, from an update on Bud Light sales as the company continues to face boycotts and fallout, to the dozens of movies Mattel is apparently working on after Barbie's success, and more. But first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all know that change is inevitable, but sometimes in the middle of a big change, in that transition period, you might feel a little lost or stuck, or it just doesn't match what you expected. I know I felt a version of those things when I started my own business and again when I became a parent. Both have been amazing changes in my life, and yet I appreciated having a therapist to support me through them. I believe therapy helped me become a better version of myself, which ultimately means I'm a better leader for my team and a better parent for my son. If you're just getting started with therapy, BetterHelp is an entirely online option that helps to make therapy more convenient and flexible. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Really, find that one therapist you really click with, and let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Well, a controversial pipeline project just got the go-ahead from the U.S. Supreme Court, though for now, it's just temporary. It's called the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and it's supposed to be 300 miles long, carrying 2 billion cubic feet of natural gas from northern West Virginia to southern Virginia every day. Congress actually approved the project already during debt ceiling negotiations, but an appeals court blocked it earlier this month. Well, the High Court just lifted that block, meaning construction can continue while appeals continue in lower courts. The Mountain Valley Pipeline is a $6 billion project that's actually faced years of legal challenges from environmental groups. They say the pipeline is a threat to the water, air, and climate. But backers say it's crucial for American energy independence and impacts thousands of jobs in West Virginia especially. Either way, at this point, the construction is nearly done, and the pipeline is set to actually be in service by the end of this year. Though for now, the legal fights do continue. For the second month in a row, Bud Light has lost its spot as the top-selling beer in the U.S., and now Bud Light's brewer Anheuser-Busch is laying off hundreds of workers in corporate and marketing roles. Bud Light sales have been going down ever since the company partnered with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney months ago. Some former customers are still boycotting the beer today over that partnership. Others are boycotting because they don't think Bud Light stood up for Dylan Mulvaney enough in the face of criticism. Overall, Bud Light sales have dropped nearly 30% as compared to last year. Over the same period, sales of Coors Light have gone up about 26%, and Miller Lite is up 21%. In response to declining sales, Anheuser-Busch says it's offered financial support for tens of thousands of frontline workers at independent distributors, and now it says it's prioritizing its future long-term success. We have a quick update for you about one of the biggest names in college basketball. We're talking about USC freshman Brony James, as in NBA star LeBron James's son. Well, he is now out of the hospital and back home with family. Remember, he collapsed during a workout with the USC basketball team earlier this week, and he suffered what his cardiologist has now confirmed was a sudden cardiac arrest. In a statement, the doctor thanked the quick and effective response from the USC medical staff and said while Brony James is recovering at home, some testing is still underway. His dad also tweeted for the first time since this happened, thanking fans for their support. LeBron James wrote that everyone is doing great and the family is together, adding that they'll say more when they're ready. Of course, at this point, it's not clear whether Brony James will be available to play for USC this season or beyond. Everyone is just focused on his health for now. Well, fans of the new Barbie movie might have some similar nostalgic reasons to go to theaters again soon. Reports say Mattel Films has 45 more movies in development right now, and 17 have already been announced. They include Polly Pocket, American Girl, Barney, and Hot Wheels, just to name a few. And big-name producers and directors have signed on to some of them. Think J.J. Abrams and Lena Dunham. Plus, Mattel executives say they're hoping for at least one more Barbie sequel, saying, quote, "Our ambition is to create film franchises." Though for now, director Greta Gerwig is not thinking about a follow-up, saying, quote, "Everything I've ever wanted to do, I did." And that seems to be paying off in itself, breaking records at the box office. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But before we get into that, I want to let you know about our sponsor, AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that can replace your multivitamin and probiotic and really support whole body health. I had heard about AG1 before, but I can tell you that after actually trying it and making it part of my everyday, it has lived up to the hype. I drink AG1 in the morning, usually as I'm getting my toddler breakfast or starting my workday, before I've eaten anything else. And I notice I really do reach for my tea or coffee less often, or at least I forget about it for a while, because drinking AG1 makes me feel energized and ready to take on the day. I also appreciate that it's easy to put in a to-go cup on especially busy days, and that it's just this one simple drinkable habit. 1 scoop of AG1 mixed with water, that's it. It's one of the easiest habits I've started since it makes me feel good. If you are looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1. And get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A group of high school students in Arizona has gone above and beyond to help out a teacher. The teenagers say their government teacher, Clayton Guy, is usually energetic, in a great mood, and happy to get them interested in class. So when he seemed a little down one week, they knew something was off. Well, they found out his wife needed open heart surgery. They would often ask him in class how she was doing and offered their support, but they wanted to help take away some of the stress too. So they created a GoFundMe to help pay for the surgery. And now they've raised nearly $10,000. As one student told Fox News, quote, "We just need more kind acts, no matter how small it is or how large it is." Mr. Guy says he feels so touched, and he wants people to know that even if teens today get a bad rap, they're far from selfish. Even more good news, his wife is recovering from her operation, making progress every day. All right, be sure to join us again tomorrow for our special edition Saturday episode. We are talking about drugs like Ozempic that have become trendy for weight loss. We talk to a doctor and a dietitian about how they work, what people need to know about them, and the potentially helpful and harmful effects. Then join us again Monday for your next news roundup. For now, thank you again for joining us and have a great weekend.